Hey folks, you're listening to the Java Easily podcast, episode number 16.
Java Easy. News, tutorials, tips. Everything you need to know as a beginner Java developer.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Now, before we get started, we give a quick shout out to the Java Beginner Starter Kit. So if you haven't downloaded this yet and you're completely new to Java, then go over to our website, it's javaeasily.com, and go grab the Java Beginner Starter Kit from there. It's a super helpful guide. It's going to get you up and running really quickly with Java, completely free, and it's just a really good resource for absolute beginners to get started with Java programming. But anyway, on with the episode. So in this episode, we're going to look at how you can fix your mindset to get coding quickly. And what we mean by that is that oftentimes you have blockers, mental blockers inside your head, which actually prevent you from getting started and making true progress. So in this episode, we're just going to talk about that and try and flush a few things out so you can get up and running with the best possible frame of mind, best possible mindset, and start coding with Java. So the first point about mindset is to realize that, everyone starts somewhere. Everyone's a beginner before they're an expert. Everyone has to take the first steps in anything before they can become proficient with it. And that's just the way things are. And that's true of anything whatsoever. So this isn't specific to Java coding in general, IT, anything like that. It's really anything that you start, it's always going to be hard before it becomes easy. And, just realizing the fact that everyone once, no matter who they are, no matter what accolades they've achieved or wherever they've got to be in their career or whatever, whether you're considering people like Elon Musk, for example, with Tesla, Jeff Bezos with Amazon, Bill Gates with Microsoft, whoever it might be, or even just people you happen to work with in your organization. You might look up to, for example, a particular person on your team and think, that person, they really know what they're talking about. Or it might be somebody you don't necessarily look up to, but you have respect for, in that even if they're a bit of a pain to work with, ultimately they've got like a really good body of technical knowledge behind them. And the fact that they can speak so confidently on a particular topic or a particular technology area, they always have to have a almost instant solution for something, instant solution for any problem, that kind of thing. It might be that kind of person. But nonetheless, you kind of feel this respect for them. Even if you don't necessarily like them or get on with them, you still recognize that they have something about them that you'd like. And that's the fact that they know what they're talking about. And they appear to be some form of expert in what they're talking about. So no matter who it is you might think of now, obviously there's a difference between Jeff Bezos, who created Amazon, and say Kevin, who's on your team, who seems to be like a really talented technical architect or whatever. But just realizing the fact that they were once a beginner, just like you are now, can be a really useful kind of mindset hack into jump-starting you into action. Everyone starts somewhere. Everyone's a beginner. Even Einstein. Einstein didn't come out of the gate penning down quantum mechanics or quantum physics or whatever. In fact, he was just a clerk in a patent office. That was his day job. But nonetheless, he started out as a beginner in physics. So just know that everybody starts somewhere. And even though it might seem like a huge hurdle or an almost impossible task to get to where you want to be, expert, senior Java developer, or tech lead, or whatever it might be, just know that it is possible. And where you are right now as a beginner is exactly the same place that Jeff Bezos was in the beginning, that Elon Musk was in the beginning, and that Einstein was in the beginning. Everyone starts out as a beginner. Everyone makes the same mistakes that you're making. Everyone had the same issues, the same problems, possibly the same mindset issues as well. So just realize if you're a beginner and you're starting there, at that first place, taking those first steps, everyone started there. And you will get to where you want to be. It's just going to take time. Now on that subject of you will get where you want to be, another aspect of this kind of mindset reset, if you like, is that you shouldn't start with the end goal in mind. There's a thing I learned about a while ago, a few years ago now, and it's called complex task anxiety. And in a nutshell, what that means is that you can become anxious, or rather you can become more anxious the more complex a task is, or how big the task is, or conversely, how far away that task in the future might be. So to go back to the Amazon thing again with Jeff Bezos, if you had the desire to create your own startup company to rival that huge success that Amazon has had, and you start in the beginning by just looking at how big Amazon is and saying, you know what, that's my goal, then the brain can't even comprehend from where you are now how to get to that end state. And so because of this, oftentimes you're forced into inaction, where you're not going to take any action, you're going to procrastinate over even taking small baby steps, those first initial steps to get you on your way, because of the fact that the end goal seems so huge and so unobtainable. So instead of starting with the end goal in mind, which might be anything as audacious as I want to have my own startup company, a multi-million-dollar a year revenue company, or something as seemingly humble as I just want to be a senior developer in my team, Or maybe if you haven't even started or embarked on a career as a Java developer yet, it might be, right, I want to get a job in Java coding this year where I'm making at least, say, 40, 50, 60 grand or whatever. But instead of starting with the end goal in mind, just don't do that. Just take incremental steps each day to get better and better. Just make sure that each day you're doing something which gets you a little bit further along, gives you that little bit further sense of progression to becoming what you want to be in a much smaller context. So for example, if you don't actually work on a Java development team yet, and you haven't secured that job in IT as a Java developer, then don't even think about that. Don't even think about, what would it be like if I'm in a team? What would I have to do? How would I act? How would I even get along to be able to sort of blend in with all these other people who already know what they're doing? Don't even think about that in the beginning. Just think about the fact that you need to learn Java and you need to master that first. And then once you've got Java under your belt, that's core Java, then you do a bit more research, find out what other technologies you might need to know about, things like Apache Maven, Spring, Spring Boot, JUnit, Mockito, that kind of stuff. And then, again, do the same thing. Incrementally broaden your skill set to cover those technologies too. Now, in doing this, in taking this incremental approach, you're kind of slaying the beast. You're not thinking about this big, audacious goal at the top of the mountain, which seems like, you're never going to get there. Instead, you're making incremental progress towards that goal in any case, but you're doing it in a much more manageable way. So you're just really focusing on how you can get better each day, whilst making sure your actions are in alignment with where you want to be ultimately, but without actually having your eye on that prize all the time, because that's just a recipe for disaster. You're always going to feel kind of deflated by the fact that you still feel so far away from that huge goal. Or this complex task anxiety is going to kick in, where it just feels that like it's too complex a thing to master. For example, if you start off with thinking, I want to work in a Java development team, and you actually do research on that on the web, you'll have a whole heap of technologies and tools you've got to understand. Not just core Java, Maven, Spring Boot, JUnit, Mockito, but other stuff as well. Databases, messaging systems, version control, Git, Subversion, whatever version control tool they use, understanding how pull requests work, how merges work, understanding build systems like Jenkins or TeamCity, Azure DevOps, then understanding how cloud works and how you have different cloud providers and what they offer and all the different offerings, the differences between AWS, Azure, OpenShift or whatever, then understanding how things like Docker work and container orchestration with Kubernetes. Don't think of any of that, because if you start off with that grab bag of, this is what I need to know to get to my dream of being a developer in a Java team, it's just going to put you off. It really is. It's going to seem too daunting to make you even want to continue the journey. So don't start with the end goal in mind. You can use that as a kind of guiding star, if you like, to make sure you're going in the right direction, but just take these incremental steps each day to get better and better and to learn more things. And slowly and surely you'll broaden your skill set, and before too long you'll find you're actually there anyway. But at least you've managed to achieve it in a more manageable and more enjoyable and less anxiety-inducing way. And that kind of leads me on to the third point, which is don't compare yourself to other people. This is kind of going in a different direction. And what I mean by that is that if you have people that you work with, people on your team, like Samantha, who's a really good DevOps engineer, or Martin, who, what he doesn't seem to know about cloud isn't even worth knowing, some superstar tech lead or technical architect or whatever, don't compare yourself to them, right? You've kind of got to stay in your lane, as it were. If you're learning to drive and you go on a motorway, we say motorway over here in the UK, or highway or freeway if you like in the US, but when you're learning to drive, you don't instantly go into the fast lane, because things there, they're just too fast-paced, things are happening too quickly. You're going to stay in the usual driving lane and run things at a more comfortable speed, take things in a more mindfully observed way, and just keep staying on this road in this particular gear, which is comfortable for you, with your experience level at that point, until you feel that you can progress and go quicker into a higher gear, until ultimately you can move into that fast lane, right? But don't start off with comparing yourself to those other people. And the reason for this is that it makes it much more pleasant for you if you don't do that. So there's the concept which, I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's known as the gap versus the gain. And what that is that it says there are two aspects about how you can look at things. You can either look at the gap or you can look at the gain. Now the gap, as it's defined in this book, is looking at the distance from where you are now to ultimately where you want to be. And that can be comparing your own skill set, for example, with the skill set of Samantha, this amazing DevOps engineer or whatever. Now, if you look at things from the perspective of the gap, then all that's going to make you do is it's going to make you kind of self-reflect and feel bad about your current skill set because it's not up to the same level of skill set that the Samanthas or the Martins of the world have. And you're going to feel bad about that because it's kind of highlighting just how far you've got to go, and it's also making you feel bad about yourself because you're not there yet. So that's the concept of the gap. Now, instead of thinking about the gap and focusing on that side of things, you should focus on what's known as the gain, and that's the other aspect. The gain is defined as what you know now, today, the skills that you have already in your possession which you've mastered, when compared against where you came from, or what you started with, or how you started out your beginnings with. So to go back to the example just a few minutes ago, you might not know about Maven, Spring Boot, JUnit, and Mockito. You just kind of heard of them, but you don't really know what they are. So don't focus on that. But you might be at the point where, say, you're midway through learning Java, core Java that is, and you've mastered a lot of concepts along the way. Maybe you know about variables, loops, conditionals, exceptions and exception handling, that kind of stuff. But you're not quite finished, because you need to get the OO side, the object-oriented engineering side, under your belt as well. But again, instead of focusing on that, on what's to come, just focus on the fact that, you know what, say like a few months ago, you didn't even know what all this stuff was. You had no idea what an exception was, you didn't know what a try-catch block was, didn't know about variables, different data types, different types of conditionals, didn't know the switch statement, didn't know about how loops work, for loops, while loops, whatever it might be. So by focusing on the gain, the difference there is that you then feel a sense of achievement, as opposed to focusing on the gap, where you're just going to feel negative about things. And if you feel a sense of achievement, a sense of accomplishment, that's going to give you enough good, positive vibes, positive fuel in the bank to carry on with your Java journey. And that's what it's all about. So wrapping up, just those 3 points again in how to fix your mindset to get coding quickly. Number 1, everyone starts somewhere, and everyone's a beginner before they become an expert. Embrace that, that's fine. Number 2, don't start with the end goal in mind. Just make incremental steps each day to get better and better. And number 3, don't compare yourself to other people. Appreciate where you are now. Appreciate just how much you've learned. And by focusing on the gain you have, as opposed to the gap, you put all these positive vibes in your mental bank, and that will fuel the fire to be able to ultimately get you to where you want to be. Anyway, I hope that was useful. That about wraps it up for this episode. All that remains to say is have a great day, keep going with your Java journey, and I'll see you next time. Bye.